plan today is go back in these same areas. I've got 3 little areas, and I'm going to just try to slow down and just try to get those quality bites. If they don't work out, I'm going back to North Carolina a happy person.
I tried to do a little bit of everything. I threw a spoon, I threw a top water, I pitched a crawdad, and I flipped a crawdad a little bit. My game plan for today is I'm going to have to go back north and just pick around, and I'm going to hunt for big fish. And if you get a big fish, you can win this thing.
This time of year, the winds are real difficult to plan around. They'll come hard from any direction.
My technique is a little stop-and-go type technique. I cast to the reed, and I let them see it, and I pull it away from them real quick, make them come out after it.
Like I said before, is when I seen the lake actually pass the dike wall the first time, it was amazing, and I just had to sit there and look at it.
Anything can happen when you're only fishing against 4 people.
Walmart FLW Tour is brought to you by Walmart. Always low prices, always. By Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. By Johnson Fast Strike 150 with fixed fuel injection. And by Citgo. Citgo says go.
All right, we've seen and heard from the 5 finalists on this FLW Tour stop at Lake Okeechobee. They've all got their sights on that monster purse and, of course, the $100,000 top prize. That's one of the reasons we'll have an interesting show today. But for another, let's listen to a Chris Daniels statement from last week's qualifying day.
Are you going out and fish this weird way again?
Absolutely. It's worked for about the last 5 days, so we're just going to keep on pitching.
All right, what is this weird stuff we're doing here?
I'd rather wait and tell you later.
Well, later is now. There'll be no more mysteries. I'm Tommy Sanders, and whether he's ready for it or not, Chris Daniels' secret is about to be revealed. Well, the guys are making their first casts here on the 4th and final day, championship day. The winner taking home $100,000, and our 5 finalists are in place here. And, you know, we always think we can figure this thing out, that we've got favorites, and then the beauty of the whole thing dawns on us when we come up on day number 4. The guys start from scratch every day. Right. David Walker is gone. Also Mark Davis and Mike Sermon, who we thought was the big favorite. Just squeaks in. Barely squeaks in by the skin of his teeth. Not to say he can't win it all again today, but we who do the prognosticating have to go back and refigure everything. But we got some great anglers in there today. Of course, we mentioned Mike Sermon. Chris Daniels from North Carolina in there with a sort of a different way of fishing. Marty Fourkiller and Bernie Schultz tied for the top poundage on day number 3. And, of course, Ken Ellis, good fisherman from Sandy Cooper, round out our top 5.
I think Mother Nature sits up there and watches who we predict and how we predict things, and then
and pushes the button.
I'll fix that.
Really only have a couple of choices when it comes to cold front. You can, oh, I had one flash it right there. You can slow way down and or you can throw something that's real sharp and erratic and try to get the reflex bite. Bass being such predatory nature, they tend to bite some things out of reflex, but just because it's there.
Come on, sugar.
Last week when we had 10 pros in the field, Bernie Schultz qualified in the #1 position, actually in a tie with Marty Fourkiller. And most of his damage he did right here in Tin House Cove.
And he did most of that damage on a jerk bait, and that looks like is where he's starting again today, Tommy. He caught his fish on a jerk bait. He caught a few on a topwater bait. He even caught a few on a worm. And, you know, I was kind of impressed. Bernie had such a good plan last week. Catch himself 5 nice fish in this area and then try to catch a big one. And everybody does that, I guess. But, man, he was actually making it happen. Looks like he's right back on track again.
Nearly everybody uses the flipping technique on this lake this time of year. Jerry, did it surprise you last week when Bernie pulled out that jerkbait?
Well, you know, you got to remember these guys were only trying to qualify last week. They caught nice stringers, but a big one will come flipping.
See if there's another one right there. People have known about Tin House Cove for forever, I guess. It's an old trail to Buckhead Ridge, which is a canal system off the lake. And it's just gotten choked up in the back with all these cattails. But the fish still come up this run in the spring, and it's a really good place. I think the reason there's no other competitors here is that it really doesn't have the grass. There used to be a lot of eelgrass flats out here, and especially out at the mouth of it, had peppergrass and eelgrass, a lot of maiden cane. And because that's gone, I think that most of the anglers passed it up.
Tommy, have you ever noticed how many of these really good fishermen know all about the grass? They even know the names of it, where it grows, how it grows, why it grows there. And I think that's really important. It's, you know, it's kind of like messing around in your garden. The guys that know all about the flowers and one thing and another have great gardens. These guys that know about this good grass catch lots of fish.
Yeah, anyone who considers these guys lucky, it just really hasn't investigated the case very well, because they know so much more than on the surface you might imagine. Bernie's got a keeper there, has he not?
He will catch a limit up here just as sure as the world, and then go for his big one. Ken Else is doing about the same thing. He's just doing it in a different area. He is out in the big water.
This one feels a little better.
Bernie is back off of the big, wide open water. Ken caught some great fish in the qualifying round. Matter of fact, he had a 20-pound day. So here's another guy that kind of knows what he's doing.
Easy. Just gonna give you a nice ride in a Ranger bass boat. Take you and let some spectators look at you and cheer you.
Thing about this bait right here, as a rule, it catches a pretty good sized fish. Most of them you don't have to measure. And during practice, I had a
Chris Daniels is throwing a jig and a pig.
That's the secret.
It's unusual on this lake now, and he's also working it in an unusual way.
I'd been kind of throwing it in there and letting it hit, and then almost pull it away from it, and they'd come out and get it. And it's a really kind of a vicious strike, and but it changed yesterday on me when this front come through. These fish were really aggressive in here. You could really have a ball. And then yesterday when this front come through, they tightened up, and I don't know what's going to happen today.
Okay, now, no excuses. Not here on the final day, Chris. Seriously, plastic worms, our lizards, our plastic crawfish, they're kind of the norm on Okeechobee. A jig and eel is not used very often.
I don't think he's going to give me a second chance. I didn't get a hook in him, but that's been my whole deal right there. See that one little single reed in this whole place? And right there it was.
Well, Chris Daniels has got that new system, and apparently it's worked for him so well on the first 3 days, but so far today, the fish are going for Bernie Schultz's system.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris hasn't showed me anything yet.
Okay. He's got time, though.
Yeah,
I might remind you that.
I'm switching over to my favorite, Bernie Schultz.
All right. It's a favorite for now. We know how you jump favorites.
Look at them boiling. I mean, they're just boiling right in there. I don't know what they are, but...
This water is probably probably not any deeper than 2 foot. Matter of fact, sometimes Bernie gets to moving around back in there and hits bottom with his trolling motor.
And even though we don't see it on top, there's plenty of vegetation.
Absolutely.
Gotta be real careful with these treble hooks, boy. They'll get you. 3 sets of treble hooks and a fish that's shaking is a dangerous combination. This one's going to be real close. He's bigger than the last one.
Some little fish and a slow start for our 5 finalists, but bear in mind they whipped 145 other anglers to get to this point, and they've got some time left to go.
Look how the sun's pushing through there.
Bernie Schultz there is fishing several miles away from where Chris Daniels is fishing right here, but they're both under the same sky. And why are they concerned about what the sky's doing anyway, Jerry?
Tommy, is there a tune that goes with that?
That's kind of a book title, Both Fishing Under the Same Sky. Not bad.
And both of them fishing in that grass, and both very particular about the exact piece of grass they're on.
It seems like to me like everywhere there's a lot of reeds. I hadn't done that well by getting like an area right through here where there's just patch of reeds, you know, one here, one there. Seems to me like my bite's been better.
Chris really needs some sunshine to kind of settle these fish down around these particular places that he's looking about, and I'm still anxious to see whether this technique is going to work.
It's just a pork chunk made by Zoom. I take the rattle off my jig and I put the rattles inside the chunk, and it's just it's been a fish catching devil for me until this morning. Oh gosh almighty. I know one thing, they sure ain't holding on to it today. They held on to it then. That's Mama Sally right there. Come on, baby. Come on, darling.
Looks like he's going to score with the jig and pig here.
Come on.
Yeah, and Tommy, can you imagine somebody listening to this and not being able to see the picture?
I don't want to know what they'd be thinking about.
What is going on?
Well, it's a peak experience for these guys when they catch a good one, and I think we can all sympathize.
That's the best way to go about it, isn't it? Thank you, Lord. He hit it that first time, missed it. And he come back and hit it again. Especially on this lake right here, they don't give you many second chances. But that fish there hit me. And when it hit me, all he did was just tugged on it. I don't think, they're not aggressive today like they've been being. They've been just eating this thing. I mean, you had to dig it out of them, you know? And today they're just grabbing hold of it and just kind of holding on to it. And when I threw it in there then, that fish was evidently just holding on to it real lightly. And then finally, you know, when I threw it back in there, he grabbed it, you know, got the hook that part in.
We got 12 foot right here. That would be considered some of the deepest water in the lake. I know there's a lot of other places, but these fish, that are in here, most of them live in here. They're resident fish, I would assume. And they use this rim along here as a drop-off, a ledge. Stay hooked up, big boy. Stay hooked up. That'll work.
Well, Marty Forkiller, the man from Oklahoma, is up on the board as well, and he's not using that rattle trap like he was using last time, right?
You'll have to pardon me, Tommy. I kind of lost my concentration. I'm still thinking about Mama Sally.
That's what he called a fish. Chris called a fish when he hooked it. That's one of those North Carolina expressions,
Must
I think.
Be. Yeah. No, Marty's actually fishing with a wacky worm, which is a method of hooking the worm right in the middle of the back and letting both ends loose, and obviously a lot of action as it comes back towards the boat. He's fishing over there in the canal. He's fishing in a canal. He's probably in 2 foot of water catching these fish.
First one of the day.
Not far from our weigh-in site here is Uncle Joe's Cut, and that's where Chris Daniels is fishing right now. And Chris, you got one good keeper in the boat, huh?
Yes, sir. We just got our first keeper in the boat. Kind of hoping the sun would come on out. It's been helping my bite a lot. Had 2 pretty good bites earlier and missed them, and caught 2 non-keepers. So it's just the bite's a little tougher. They're not holding on to it like they have been. I guess the key really is probably slow down and fish slower, but I've been fishing real fast.
You're doing something different than everybody else. Do you mind telling us a little bit about it?
Well, what my game plan, the whole deal has been, I've been throwing this Zoom pork chunk, and and I'm using a jig right here that a boy in Greensboro, North Carolina makes for me. But my object, or what I've been doing, I've been pitching through these little scattered reeds, but I've been pitching to them and then pulling away from them real quick, and the fish have been coming out and hitting it real aggressive. Yesterday it slowed down. They just won't take it like they were, they had been taking it. I guess this front has just got them changed.
Can you get zeroed in on a pattern pretty quickly and then stay with it for a good amount of time?
Well, this particular pattern works for me everywhere. Anytime we've got a spawning type situation or shallow water fish, this particular technique right here has really, it's helped me a lot in my fishing.
I just have to say this. Yesterday, you mentioned the fact that you were doing something that no one else was doing, and you didn't want to talk to us about it much at that time, but now you've got to be thinking that the whole world is seeing what you're doing.
Yes, I understand. Hey, but what the heck, if it can earn you $100,000, you don't care about the world knowing about it once?
Do you?
No, I don't care. No, like I said, it was just a technique. It's probably not the bait as much as it was the technique. When you compare it to, like, throwing a holy cow. Come on, baby. Got one on there? Well, I thought it had a big one on. Come on. Got him.
Tommy, this is where I was like to be in the boat watching.
Yeah, no kidding. Standing here, you get a little anxious listening to all these grunts and groans. This is interesting, though.
Chris, do you have him in the boat?
Yeah, I got him in the boat. I thought he was bigger than he was. He was wrapped up and trying to measure him now. He's going to just be a barely keeper, I believe. He just is going to measure.
Okay, Chris Daniels from North Carolina. His first appearance here in the top 5 on an FLW Tour event. We wish him well.
Really interesting technique.
Now back to Marty Fourkiller, the wacky worm technique. Not wacky like Chris Daniels, though, right, Jerry?
Not that wacky. He is being successful with it, though. Chris, hey, Tommy, he's still got something to prove to me. He has not put him in the boat yet.
Well, I don't know if it'll be number 2 or not. I think it is, isn't it? Touch your mouth. Oh, yeah.
Marty Fourkiller's in the Indian Point Canal area, and he's just put a couple of fish in the boat, so he's doing his best to keep up with the field here. Marty, are things on schedule for you now, or you think you're running a little behind, maybe?
Maybe just a little bit behind, but...
I made 3 stops this morning and only boated 2 non-keepers and missed 1 bite. But the 2 non-keepers in the would be the second area I stopped this morning, bit of wacky worm. So I've changed locations to where I came to about this time yesterday and finally located a little stretch that had a couple of fish on it.
Caught a couple of mudfish to go along with it.
All right. You going to stay there a little while, you think?
Yes, sir. I'm planning on probably
camping here until I just have to go home.
Marty, you were telling us earlier what great success you'd had on lakes, especially like Grand Lake of the Cherokees there in Oklahoma over the past 2 years. You got to be kind of a little bit surprised that you could come down here to a really kind of different situation and do so well here on Okeechobee. Is it really that different? Are you a little surprised at your success?
I don't know. You know, whenever I go to a tournament, I feel if I don't feel like I can go win the thing, you know, I don't have any business going. And I've always tried to work on being real versatile. So we have some lakes that resemble this cover, you know, maybe not as much as this. So I'm not real unfamiliar with the type of cover. Now, as far as how the lake looks and the surrounding terrain, yeah, it's a little unfamiliar.
Marty, are you able to just forget about what everyone else is doing and concentrate on your own stuff?
Oh, yeah, it's... I'm just, after catching those fish, you know, I mean, I'm just having a good time now. Another day in paradise, as far as I'm concerned.
See those ducks up there? There's a duck hunter right to the left of that. Hope we get along. Can you give me about 10 minutes right here? Can you give me about 10 minutes right here? Yeah, I'll be out of your way in 10, 15 minutes. I won't come back. one of them.
They're after the Indians again.
This is the Walmart FLW Tour, and this, I believe, one of our cameramen, Jerry, out right cruising, looking for one of those anglers out there.
That is the cameraman, Tommy. It's the only one we have, and he has found our buddy Kenny Ellis.
There he is.
Ken looks like he's in the
Looks like.
same place that he was at the beginning of the day.
He may not have moved an inch.
The big water. He's fishing over the grass.
It's going to be close.
He's not in very deep water. You know, we mentioned that Bernie Schultz was fishing shallow. Ken's pretty shallow himself.
Ken from Monk's Corner, South Carolina, and he's got an old truck. I think it's got about 300,000 miles on it. He likes the truck, but I know he's got some Ken folks back here at the weigh-in site that would like to see him win the 100,000 and replace that thing once and for all.
So. He had some problems, didn't he? Yeah. What a good guy he is.
Oh, he's a very nice fellow.
And I know I've already said this, but boy, he had an outstanding day, one of the qualifying days. Caught a little over 20 pounds.
He's not big, but he's help.
Boy, away he goes again.
I tell you, he's got his hands full today, doesn't he?
The footage he brings to us.
Back with Mike Sermon now, who a year ago really gave us a show on this lake.
He did. He won the whole shooting match. Tommy, I'm still kind of surprised that Mike is messing around with smaller fish.
You think he ought to be in the heavy grass just flipping that jig, just
yeah,
like
he's so good at that.
Yeah.
Man, he's the greatest at that. And, you know, the kind of fish he catches in those flipping situations are 4 to 8 pounds, you know. But I know what he's after. You know, he wants to get a limit of fish.
That boiled on it, though.
Maybe 7, 8 pounds in 4 fish, say. And then get out there and start doing some flipping. But hey, the old clock is ticking.
Well, nobody's won more tournaments on Lake Okeechobee probably than this man right here, Mike Sermon. And if he runs true to form today, he can certainly give them all a scare.
Right in here where those fish were on their beds yesterday.
Tommy, I am always assuming everybody knows the format these guys are fishing under, but we've got 5 fishermen left. We started with 150. And they fished for 2 days and culled down to 10 guys, and those guys, the 10 left, started again from scratch, got to this big final day right here, and again, they all started with no pounds and going for the whole shooting match on one day.
$100,000 first prize there. Mike Sermon on the board, now over to Bernie Schultz.
Yeah, that was Mike's first fish. I know that he's pretty disappointed, but can't count him out, can you?
No, not at all. Nor can you count out Bernie Schultz.
No,
here.
and see, here's the plan that Mike was trying to make happen.
Right,
you know,
put 5 fish in the boat.
Put 5 2-pounders in the boat. You know, the fish that Bernie Schultz is catching right here are not slouches by any means.
Thank you.
These are pretty nice, but they're not going to win, Tommy.
No, absolutely.
They're not going to win, I don't think.
It's a psychological barrier. You got to have the 5 fish in order to really sort of loosen up and go where you want to go
Right.
to catch the big one.
Right. You know, every one of these guys, you know, the guy that finishes in 5th place today is going to make a pretty nice payday. This is almost like PGA money now.
Absolutely, yeah. The guy who finished 50th gets over pretty well. We were talking about how these guys are able to name the grasses. They know so much about the wildlife here. A lot of people don't know.
But I sure would like to leave with 5.
Can't win here, but he'd like to leave with 5 is what Bernie Schultz says. Bernie himself is a wildlife artist. He paints the scenes of the outdoors. Yeah.
Okay.
Knows all these plants very well.
Come on, baby.
School at the University of Florida, Gainesville.
All right. Okay, we can go. We can go to the big fish now.
Well, Well, that's his limit right there, Jerry. That's 5 fish for Bernie Schultz. And he can move along, and I assume he will.
All right.
The Walmart FLW Tour is brought to you by Walmart. Always low prices, always. By Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. By Fixed Fuel Injection, the best of all worlds. And by Chevy, the most dependable, long-lasting trucks on the road.
I guess overall the most popular tournament fishing spot on Lake Okeechobee is that place called the Monkey Box, kind of in the central part of the lake over on the west side.
And you know what? The perfect plan for every tournament fisherman is to go out and quickly catch himself a limit of fish, regardless of size, and then start working on something else. And looks like Bernie's plan is kicked in.
Going right by the books. And Bernie, would you agree with that? Are you right on schedule?
I'm a little bit behind, Tommy. I missed a couple of fish this morning, and otherwise I'm in pretty good shape. I just felt like I should have done it by 9 o'clock.
Well, you're not too far off. That move you made, are you ready to start? I guess you are looking for the big fish now.
Well, I'm in an area where I saw some bigger fish, and I'm still throwing my jerkbait, trying to cover as much water until I get around some active fish. The water got a little bit stained from the wind, though, and it's changed.
Bernie, do you fish with spinning tackle quite a little bit?
Yes, I do, Jerry. I was raised on spinning tackle. It's my favorite. I know that's your style, too. I love to do it.
Don't you feel like that it gives you a little bit better control and feel of your lure?
Absolutely. I got a lot more sensitivity and definitely more accuracy. Now, that's not to say you can't be accurate with casting tackle, but I'm just not as accurate with it.
One more question for you. You've been around this game a good long time, and some of these anglers will tell us the prospect of fishing for $100,000.
Doesn't change them a bit, doesn't change their thinking at all. But would you agree or disagree with that?
It's on your mind. I mean, that's a big purse for sure, and I'm glad to be a part of it. But I tell you, for some reason, the way I'm made, I don't know, it's never really bothered me whether I was fishing for $10 or $10,000. I've always fished really, really hard, and it doesn't affect my fishing too much, believe it or not.
So Bernie, it won't be any problem with you then to have to split the purse with me and Tommy then.
Well, that depends on what kind of investment you got in mind for me.
There you go. Not the best, I can say. That is Bernie Schultz out in the Monkey Box area.
$100,000 on the line. That's the first prize here at our first stop of the second year of the Walmart FLW Tour.
Come on, bud. Come on, darling. All right.
Well, Tommy, that is Daniel's third fish now. Starting to convince me a little bit, but he's got a long way to go.
Every one of those bites, their nose right against that reed. I mean, that's the way it's been, except for one fish, I believe. I know everybody else catching this other stuff, but everything I've caught, I've had to concentrate right on the base of them reeds. We need one more. We got another pound and 10 ounce, and we need to get rid of. Make a movie star out of somebody else. Out of one of them 3 or 4 pounders.
You know what? He's fishing this jig almost like a spinnerbait. He throws it out there, and opposed to letting it go right straight to the bottom and go bonk on the bottom, and then you start fishing it. He's letting it go splash and immediately start moving it towards him. Boy, there's a perfect example right there. Was that fish up in that reed
just
before
exactly what he had been talking about, you know? I mean, nose to the reed, that's where the fish was, and that's where he caught him.
Normal flipping and the way Chris is doing it is, boy, there is a big difference. You know, he's not fishing very far from the ramp either. He's like 5 minutes away from the ramp there at what's called West Wall.
The ramp we're talking about where we are is in Clewiston,
right
at the bottom end of the lake.
We are
the south
at
end of the lake.
Roland Martin's Marina.
Our host is the one and only Roland. How about that?
Got close to qualifying this year, but didn't quite make it.
Absolutely, definitely 14-inch keeper. Yeah, now push tight. Okay, now we need her. But you notice, look, sun straight up again. That sun pops out. I think them fish see how fast they can get to a reed, and they play tag or something. I don't know what they do. That sun comes straight out, boom, you get bit. Cloud comes by, 15, 20, 30 minutes, you don't get a bite.
Needs a little more sunlight. The weigh-in is just around the corner, Jerry.
Gosh, I'm waiting for a big one. Surely someone's going to come through.
Get in the boat. Not yet.
Thank you, Lord.
Well, I loved you while you were here. I'll just leave you right here. Do a little dance.
That's my water baby belt buckle. Years ago, I got knocked off a barge. I used to work in the oil fields. I got knocked off a barge in the Gulf of Mexico. And I stayed in the Gulf of Mexico in 8 to 10 foot seas for 7 hours until it got daylight with no life jacket. And they found me the next day and they named me the water baby. So anyway, I've named this jig right here the water baby. So just don't let me down, water baby.
This is the Walmart FLW Tour, first stop of the year on Lake Okeechobee, and nobody really busting out of the pack, but Marty Fourkiller and Mike Sermon need to catch up to the pack at this point.
Schultz and Ellis both with a limit of fish. Uh-oh.
This is Marty Fourkiller.
What a grin on his face, huh?
He's got that winning smile, doesn't he?
About a 4-pound bass. That would make you pretty happy because we're kind of getting along in the day. Some things need to happen here. Marty Fourkiller just made a nice little move. And Chris Daniels is, he's got something on his mind.
He's thinking hard.
There she is. Son, man. Holy cow. Give me your hand, baby. Woo, son! Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Woo. Woo, Lord have mercy. That's the nerves I can't get the jig out of his mouth. Woo, Lord have mercy alive. You know, I said a silent prayer a while ago, and it was answered. Oh, we get to throw one back. But we don't want to throw her back, do we? Woo, Lord have mercy. I started not set the hook that fish bit so easy. It was just a little something, just something right, you know? Woo, goodness gracious. Let's see if we can get one out of the boat. Ah, okay. The water baby jig. I'm so nervous I can't hardly measure a fish. Yeah, he was a squeaker. Let's catch another one. Woo! Lord have mercy. Ah! I can't even tie the line back. I'm gonna call Zoom and tell them if I get lucky enough to win this thing, that I might wear a Zoom patch.
We've been waiting for our Fuji turning point to develop, and it has. And it's become a very, very clear picture. Now, you count practice days. These competitors have put in from 10 to 20 days here on Lake Okeechobee. But in a matter of just 20 seconds during the last hour of this event, Chris Daniels has possibly changed his whole life forever. Now, there's still time for the others, but for now, boy, oh boy, what an important 20 seconds.
And we catch another like that, we're going to be in pretty good shape. My technique is really that I normally catch them, I've had to stop it. I've had to quit. I've had to lay that jig in there now and let it sit a second, then they're hitting it. See, I've been taking, I'll give you a little demonstration right quick. I've been taking like that little second reed right there. I've been pitching to that reed and let it splash and make and pull it right back. You know, and not let it lay beside the reed. Just pull it straight back and they would come out. You see the reeds move, they'd come out and chase it. So I don't know if that's enough color in that chunk right there to where they think it's a, you know, I don't know if they think it's a minnow or what it is, but that color combination in clear water has been awesome. It's really been awesome.
Another angler who's decided to stick with what brought him this far is Ken Ellis from Moncks Corner, South Carolina, and Ken is still in Fish-Eating Bay. Got his limit as well, about 8.5 pounds, and Ken, I guess, just looking for the big one is the first order of business here, right?
Right, just trying to get that one fish that's going to kick me up there.
My limit's real small. The bait's been real slow. I've caught probably 15 fish to just get a limit of keepers, but they're just, I've called one fish for just a few ounces. I've got a lot of little fish, but I'm just trying to get that one good bite.
Got a question from the audience. Jerry's with the one of your fans here.
Hey, Ken, Alex Seahaven from Fort Myers would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
How has the change in temperature since the beginning of the tournament affected your fishing?
Well, these Florida strain bass are very notorious
for a cold front really shutting them down, and it's made the big fish really tough to get to bite. They just don't feed. They don't have enough cold weather down here to have to feed in cold weather, so you got to really slow down and present your bait in a lot of places where one might be, and just have a lot more patience and fish a lot harder, and you're not going to get as many bites or as big of bites.
Ken, I want you to tell Alex and all the rest of your fans in here about the biggest stringer of fish you ever caught up there on Santee Cooper Lake, how big that stringer was.
Well,
I had a 5-fish limit in a tournament that weighed 40 pounds, 4 ounces.
that's pretty big. Any chance of that happening today? You still got a little time left.
No, I don't think that's going to happen today. You got those type of deals only happen when the conditions are absolutely perfect, and as we well know, they're not that kind of conditions today. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to stumble on a big one or two. So I'm not giving up, that's for sure. I like to say,
I never get beat. I just run out of time.
Okay. Well, we appreciate it, Ken. Let's give him a big hand. Ken Ellis from Moncks Corner, South Carolina, doing really good out there. Got his limit, and he's got some more fishing to do. Still looking for that big one. You're watching the Walmart FLW Tour.
My lucky hat is in the back, in the storage compartment. But you know what? Now this is my new lucky hat. I'm having a wonderful time. Bud, tell you something now. If I can get this in the boat, I'll be having a great big time. Son. Woo! That's what we done. We come after right there. I'm ready to go in.
Tommy, I've told you all along that new method was going to work.
Now, don't start. Aren't you ashamed of yourself?
He was my favorite.
For doubting for one moment that he could pull it out with that method.
Boy, he has hit the jackpot, hasn't he? He is hot.
That was about a need.
Incredible.
Throw the 1-pounder away. I'm gonna mount this jig right here. If I win this thing, I'm gonna put it in a glass cage. And I know y'all ain't never seen anybody tie a knot like that. But if you don't know what kind of knot it is, call me. Catch one like that on a day like this don't make you nervous either. See my hands? They're not shaking. They just look like they're shaking. My voice is not trembling. It just sounds like it's trembling. All right, here we go again.
Is that not what everyone who's ever fished a tournament dreams of? Jerry making a couple of hits like that in the last
an hour, in the last hour, and it's not over for this guy. I mean, look, he is still cooking them son of a guns.
That looks like a big one, too.
Lost her.
Oh, it came off.
That was King Kong there. That was a nice one.
Chris Daniels is barely 5 minutes away from our weigh-in side, and I think he could make it there on adrenaline alone. He doesn't even need gasoline. Hadn't been that kind of day for Mike Sermon, though.
Yeah, he's had it pretty tough. And I think we know who the winners are going to be, but it is going to be an exciting weigh-in.
Woo, Lord have mercy, get me in here. That last fish would have been nice, wouldn't it? Woo. I mean, I got everything I got, Scroll. Woo! But we'll see in a little bit.
Tent bulging at the seams with folks interested in finding out who the king is. Well, what a tough time for Mike Sermon to have a bad day. Still good enough for 5th place, and although he had a limit, Ken Ellis's fish were small, only good for 4th place. Our man Bernie Schultz had a great tournament, though. And how about Marty Fourkiller? We told you at the outset that we had some new kids on the block. Marty showed up big today, and, you know, being consistent has to be his next step. But, boy, he's off to a running start, wouldn't you say? 2nd place money is $40,000, and that position is going to go to Oklahoma's Marty Fourkiller. The man of the hour, though, and normally these weigh-ins are pretty competitive, but Chris Daniels, who has fished competitive for 20 years now, has blown the field away. We all know it, but it's still going to be a lot of fun to watch.
14 pounds, 14 ounces.
I told you that was going to be fun. Now, all Chris needs to do is get those fish into the hands of Charlie Evans, and Tommy Sanders will tell us the rest.
Did he show us something or not? Excellent. Let's take a look at that weight. Right up there on the screen. 22 pounds, 8 ounces. FLW Tour, Chris Daniels, here's how you feel right now.
I'm about to blow up. My heart has been beating ever since that first big fish, and then I caught the other big fish, and I felt real good when I did get that one in the boat. That gave me my 5th or 6th fish, and then we caught a few, but it's been a great day. This has been a super tournament.
Been your best tournament ever, goes without saying. How's this one going to change your life, Chris?
Well, I'm going to be fishing.
Let's hear it. A big hand for Chris Daniels. Let's show him something here. Let's take a look at this. You hold that for me. Woo! $100,000. Let's hear it for our champion, Chris Daniels. He gave the folks what they wanted to see here in Lewiston, Florida. A great opening to our Walmart FLW Tour season. Hope to see you on the next stop down there in Jackson. Till then, take care.
Walmart FLW Tour is brought to you by Walmart. Always low prices, always. By Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. By Fifth Fuel Injection, the best of all worlds. And by Chevy, the most dependable, long-lasting trucks on the road.
If you tuned in late, you messed up because you missed Chris Daniels catching 22 pounds of bass today. Hey, we'll give you another chance next week at Ross Barnett Reservoir down in Jackson, Mississippi.